Welcome to the monthly Consumer Issues program hosted by Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County. On the second Thursday of each month, we're joined by New York State Assistant Attorney General Michael Danaher, who makes a presentation on a topic of consumer interest. Today's program is on being a wise consumer in the utility market. After his presentation, Mr. Danaher will answer questions that viewers have submitted to CCE Tompkins in the Zoom chat box. This presentation also will be available on the CCE Tompkins YouTube channel and will be broadcast next month on Mondays on Public Access Channel 15. Thank you for joining us today. And now here is New York State Assistant Attorney General Michael Danaher with today's program.
Thank you, Sandy. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Those of you watching a taped version of this, welcome to you as well. We're here on the second Thursday of every month at Cornell Cooperative Extension. We're here virtually right now, and we hope someday in the not too distant future that we'll be able to get back together again personally at Cornell Cooperative Extension's offices, as hopefully we are getting through this pandemic. As Sandy mentioned, today's talk is about being a good, wise consumer in the utility market. Now, a lot of people will say, oh boy, utilities, isn't that just you call NYSEG or National Grid or wherever people are viewing this, their electricity provider or utility provider, and just sign up. Well, first of all, it's not limited to just gas and electric. Utilities encompass cable. Now I throw on in cell phones because they seem to be all over the place now. Internet service as well, often through cable providers, but other internet service providers. So we can talk about a whole host of things. The most important thing is that we do need to be a good and wise consumer in this area as well as many other areas. So how do you become a good consumer in what we think of as the typical utility, which is gas and electric? And don't you just call up the provider on the phone, in our case, it'd be NYSEG, and just have them turn it on, and then you're good to go. Well, things have changed over the last, I don't know how long it's been, 10 years or so. There is actually choice. Now, there is not choice for the company that delivers the service to the house, that delivers the gas, delivers the electric, the poles, the wires, the pipes, those sorts of things, the infrastructure that gets it from its source, that ultimately to our property lines, at least, if not into our homes. And that portion won't change. That will still be NYSEG, or if that changes somewhere down the line. That won't change. But there actually is another aspect to the furnishing of the utilities on top of the delivery source or service, but actually the supplier. In other words, who can supply the current that flows over the electric line, or who provides the actual gas that gets put into the system that comes into our individual houses. The gas that flows through the line, or the electric that goes through the wires, is actually separate from the deliverer of it, the one who provides the infrastructure to get it to our houses. And for those of you that are not aware, if you look at your utility bill, which comes from the deliverer, in our case, I'll just use NYSEG, it's just easier to refer to it, comes on a NYSEG bill, the bill is actually broken into two pieces. One is the delivery charge, that's how it gets to the house. And then the supply charge, and that is who delivers the current, who creates the current or the gas that actually comes through that particular pipe. and that is considered separate. And the supply portion of the bill is actually something that we have a choice for. We can choose who our supplier is. Many of you, like me, receive in the mail various solicitations from deliverers. There's many out there asking you to sign up for their service. And you have a choice. And there is a difference in prices for that choice. And we need to be good consumers to investigate the different suppliers, where we want to get our energy from, what type of service do we want, and then make an informed decision. And for some reason, I take keen interest in my energy supply. I get a notice, depending on how long my contract is for both gas and electric, and I go out and I check and see what the prices are and whether or not I want to renew at a particular rate, whether I can renew, how soon I can renew, all those sorts of things. I don't know how much in total that will save me over a period of time because I haven't done the total amount, but I do take particular pride in being able to research this and to get the best deal that I can get. So the supply is who puts out that electric current, who puts out that gas, and they're referred to as ESCOs, energy service companies. It's been deregulated in New York for some period of time, and there's a whole host of providers that each of us can choose from. Actually, New York, the Public Service Commission actually has a website that you can go on to look and see who those suppliers are and what their relatively current rates are and what the different programs that they have, the different contracts that they have. And so the way I handle it is I initially start my search when my contract is coming up. I go to the New York Power to Choose website at dps.ny.gov and look to see, and they have not rankings, but they have service listed for both electric service and for gas service. So you have to look at the two separate spots. Now, electric, not to get too much in the weeds, but electric is provided by a standard rate called the kilowatt hour, and it's kWh. So that's what you'll see as far as electric is concerned. And there are several companies, I know the last time I checked, servicing my area, there were 8 different companies that I could choose from. And there are different programs that are available. One is a determination of whether you want a fixed charge or a variable charge. And they're exactly what it sounds like. The fixed charge is a set charge for the length of your contract. And variable is a charge that varies throughout the term of your contract. Now, the fixed rate charge is not a fixed total amount. It's not $56.36 a month, and you'll get whatever electric you want to get. It's actually fixed based on the number of kilowatts you use. So your bill could vary if you use more kilowatts, and typically, because the sun is out longer we're actually, as we tape this, we're fast approaching the longest day of the year, which is 3rd or 4th week in June. The longest day of the year. So the sun is up for so long, you use lights less. For those who heat by electric, you don't use heat as much, so you may use less electric for that. However, your electric may go up if you use more air conditioning, which we've had a pretty good stretch of hot temperatures this particular time of this year. So it's based on a fixed charge per kilowatt hour. And the rates will fluctuate depending on how long of a contract you want to have, what time of the year you sign up for that particular contract, and whether or not you have a contract that allows you to have no cancellation fee if you should choose. So the variable rate is based on whatever the base is for determining the variable rate. It may be what the market is charging at that particular point in time, and it fluctuates every month. You might get a different type of electric source that you are particularly interested in. For example, you may like to cut down on your carbon footprint, and therefore you would like to have your electric generated through hydroelectric sources. And there are options for green sourcing of your electricity as well. And again, it's what you prefer as a consumer, and you can make the good consumer choice to say, hey, I want all my electric to be generated as a result of sun or wind or hydro, however you want to do it. And so you may sign up for a contract where your source is geared toward generating that electric current through those green type of sources. So the other thing that you consider is the length of your contract. Do you want a contract that goes for 24 months, 36 months? Do you want to have a 12-month contract? Do you want to have a no contract, which would then put you at a variable rate? And then then you can make your informed choice. What you should do is make those decisions, say, okay, I care about green energy, so I'd like my source to come from that, so that'll limit what your choices are. Or you may say, I don't care, I just want the best rate, and then you can decide that way. You can say that I want a fixed rate because I don't want all of a sudden there to be a huge spike in energy costs, and I'm not locked in at X amount. I will tell you that typically for kilowatt hours, you're in the single cents per kilowatt hour. It could be, I haven't looked recently to see what the rates are, but you may find a rate that's 5 cents per kilowatt hour. It might be 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Look and see what the best rate be for you regarding that, and then you can make the choice. It's a similar program. Also, before I get into that with gas, but I'd say also the thing that you would want to consider is if you can lock in at a particular rate, is that rate fixed, and are you set for the entire term? In other words, can you get out of the contract if you want to? Let's say you're looking at prices, and typically the prices are higher in the wintertime, and your contract is coming to an end, and you want to lock into something, but the rates are a little bit higher. You say, okay, I want to lock into a fixed rate, but I want to be able to break this contract before the 12 months or the 24 months is up. And if I do break it, is there any charge associated with breaking that rate? So you have to decide, do I want one that allows me to cancel with no cancellation fee? Because that in essence is one that allows you to break. Me personally, I get into contracts that are cancelable, that there's no cancellation fee. And if for some reason I had an 18-month contract and I signed up in the summer and the rates were lower, and then a year and a half later, it was getting in the wintertime and the rates were much higher, I don't want to lock into another contract at a higher rate. I want to see what the market's going to be next spring or summer when the rates tend to be lower, and then lock in for a period of time. So that'll give you some flexibility related to that. So make that decision. Also, the same goes for gas. You go to the New York Power to Choose website and see what the gas rates are. And for gas, they're typically known by or measured by a term called therm. So you pay a certain amount per therm. Again, those have fixed and variable rates, and those are usually in the double cents per therm, 25 cents a therm, 36 cents a therm. When I last inspected, which was probably prior to the time that we did this discussion a year or so ago, I was finding fixed rates from 36.5 cents to 89 cents per therm, with contracts of anywhere from 6 months to 60 months, and variable anywhere from 25.52 cents a therm to 98 cents a therm. So that can fluctuate quite large. So you want to look again and decide what is best for you based on your energy use and your risk level, and make your decision that way. You need to investigate if there are any cancellation fees. Every time my contract is coming to an end, and you get a notice for this. Oh, and another thing that I really want to point out to you, understand that when your contract ends, you automatically get converted to a variable rate. That's just when you end, you just go to the current variable, whatever the market rate is. So if you're a fixed rate kind of person, you really do want to do your investigation and lock into that new upcoming contract before the variable rates get kicked in, especially if the variable rates are in the stage where they're starting to go up. So understand that when your contract ends, you don't continually roll over to another fixed contract. You don't actually. You will roll over into a variable rate. So make sure that you do your investigation and get the new contract in place. What I do is, in addition to going on to the New York Power to Choose website to get an idea of what the rates are, those may not be the most current rate. So I then get on the phone and call the companies and say, okay, what are your current rates? And the customer service people on all the companies I've called have been great. And I call them and they tell me what the rate is and whether there's a cancellation fee and how long the contract would be. And you can sign up right then. And then you get written confirmation later that you're signed on to. And you may actually have to do a oral approval while you're on the phone, where the rep says, okay, we are signing you up for this rate for this contract. There's no cancellation fee, yada, yada, yada. It's a contract for a certain length of time. Do you agree to have XYZ company provide your gas or electric under those particular terms? And you confirm it with a yes, and that will bind you. So be a good consumer in making those particular choices. And that's kind of it as far as the gas and electric. But we also have options with phone. Phone, there's many more options than it used to be. I used to always say that you could get whatever service that Ma Bell had, as long as it was the only one that they offered. But now we have many options. You have telephone companies, you have internet companies that are providing phone services now, like Spectrum. You can have a bundled service where you have your telephone, your cable, your internet rolled into one. You get a slight discount for having those particular services. They may also have an introductory rate that is very valuable. The only thing I tell you is be aware that it is an introductory rate, and those rates will change at the end of your introductory period of time. So keep an eye on that, and you may see an increase in your bill. There's cell phone providers of telephone services, and more people are have cell phones, and maybe it's in addition to their landline. I know in our situation in my house, we recently, in the last year or two, terminate our landline because we weren't home a lot, and we weren't getting a lot of calls from people who we wanted to hear from on our landline. And those who wanted to contact us were calling us on our cell phones. So we ended up turning off our landline, but there's those that still have them. There's telephone companies, as in addition to Spectrum with it, that has internet or telephone provided that way. You have to decide what is best for you and make that decision. Do you want two phones, one in the house and a cell phone? What type of, if you go with cell phone, what type of plan do you want? I know with now cell phones, it's very difficult to get a cell phone that just makes telephone calls. It's hard time convincing younger people that thing that they carry around that are always looking at and touching, actually you can make a telephone call on. It's texting that they're doing and looking on the internet on their phone with their data lines. So that's, again, as a good consumer, you investigate what your needs are as far as cell phone service. Do you need an unlimited data plan where you're always looking at the internet and getting your emails and all that stuff? Or do you need some type of more limited program? And then find out who's available out there that are offering that. I see ads on television all the time for different cell providers that provide data as well as cell phone, and they have different programs and pricing and things. The best thing that we can do as a consumer is to understand what our needs are and then make decisions accordingly. What's the best plan? It used to be, this is how things changed. It used to be when you signed up for a cell phone plan that you got a free cell phone. You just, that was part of the deal. For X number of dollars a month, you got a cell phone. And in essence, what the cell providers were offering was to get you to join their service. They were supplementing the cost of that cell phone by giving you a free cell phone. We thought it was free, but nothing's free. And it was included in the price of the cell phone bill. And then it got to a point in time where they got away from that. And we'll have noticed more recently up to the last, few months, 6 months, there was really no break. I mean, you could get a cell phone for an additional fee added to your cell phone bill that amounted to the cost of that cell phone. And they're typically 24 months. You pay off the cell phone, and cell phones are not cheap. And I guess we can appreciate the olden days when the cell phone companies supplemented the cost of the cell phones when we just had it as part of our bill, and then all of a sudden, prices of cell phone, you're hearing prices $800, $1,000 or more for some of these newfangled, highest, newest versions of iPhones and Androids and that sort of thing. And so we were just, for 24 months, you paid $800. You divide it by 24, and that's how much extra you paid each month, and then you have the whole thing paid off. And undoubtedly, not much longer after the 24 months, I think, my own personal opinion, obsolescence is, I've been told this by retailers, that obsolescence is almost built into the cell phones, and the batteries start to wear out quicker, and with the new souped up software and things, that the older phones aren't able to handle it as quickly or efficiently as the newfangled phones, higher end phones. And so we end up having to get a new cell phone. And there you go, you're starting your 24 months all over again and paying the $800 or $1,000 over those periods of time. More recently, I have read articles that it appears that maybe the cell phone companies are trying to drive customer acquisition and are now kind of reverting back to offering cell phones as part of, if you sign up for a program for a plan for 24 months or whatever, they'll they'll throw in a cell phone for you. I haven't investigated that because I'm not in the market for a new cell phone. I tend to try to have mine as long as I can, and avoid that charge for 24 months. But undoubtedly, it won't be till very long that cell phone will have to be replaced, and then I'll have to decide what we're going to end up doing. But you need to put that all in the mix, because sometimes in order to acquire customers, the cell phone provider might be throwing in some extra services, like they might give you access to Netflix for a period of time, or Hulu, or Amazon Prime, or something. Again, be a good consumer and make sure you're getting what you want. Don't be blinded by these special frills that are being added. If that's not something that you need in a cell service, then you've got to make your decision which is best financially for you. Again, utilities, we have television. There's been crazy changes in this particular area. It used to be that you either got it through an antenna, that you got public television service, major channels, and maybe PBS with a satellite, a dish, an antenna, or you got cable. That was kind of the two things. You had cable service through the local cable provider. Well, now more and more people are morphing over to streaming services, and they're watching their television over the internet, and they're cutting the cord to their cable service. That's, again, a choice that you need to make based on the kind of channels that you watch, the service that's provided, whether or not you want to do it through streaming. I know from our perspective here in the Danaher household that we have gone to streaming for our television. Economically, it's a lot less expensive. Don't watch a whole heck of a lot of television, and limited to the channels that we watch, and we could do it by a streaming service that also allows us to stream on our phones. And if we're out somewhere, and I don't utilize it very much, but want to watch something on television because we're bored and waiting for somebody to come out of a store or something, and we're sitting in the parking lot, I can pull out my phone and pull up TV and watch a television show, or watch Netflix or something like that. That's what we've chosen to do. There's a lot of services out there. There's Hulu, and I don't even know them all. There's all types of providers. There's YouTube TV, which is different than YouTube, but YouTube TV. There's a whole bunch, and investigate what's best for you, what works for you, and make your choice accordingly. Likewise, internet access. Some areas have competition, not as much by us. There are different costs based on usage and speed of service. Make your choices as to what works best for you. In rural areas, I know there's a big push both federally and state to try to get internet service to rural areas. We're hopeful that everybody's going to have access to high-speed internet, because that seems to be the wave that's going on now. One thing that I would point out to you is that if you are buying internet, could be Spectrum, it could be another internet service provider. Some localities have a local internet service provider. There are ways that you can check to see that you're getting the speeds that you expect to get. You can do that by going to Speedtest, one word, speedtest.net, and you can actually have that speed test done, and you can see what your download speeds is where you download information onto your computer. You download programs and things like that, videos, and your upload speeds, which is where you put out information. you put out information, you upload it onto the internet as compared to downloading it onto your computer. And it can test and see what your speeds are. If you are paying for a certain speed, you should do speed tests to see, because one of the factors in the price that is charged is the speeds that you can achieve. And if you are paying for an increased speed, let's say 40 megabytes per second download, and you're only getting 20, then you need to raise that issue with your service provider to say, hey, you're not furnishing me what I'm paying for. Let's say the standard rate provides you to get 20 megabytes per second, MPSs, of download speed for a certain price, but you're willing to pay extra to get 50 or 100. And you go and check and you're only getting 20. You shouldn't have to pay that extra amount of money. So be a good consumer, check on it, and make sure you're getting what you expect. In the brief few minutes that we have left, just a few other things kind of related is propane and fuel oil that furnish the energy that run our furnaces and other things. You can have a contract with your propane or oil service provider. You should check on that. If you want to have that fixed rate, knowing that you're going to only pay this much per gallon, then contact your provider. I can tell you that the prices fluctuate and sometimes significantly among providers. So you want to search that now before it's too late, because the other option is to buy as you go. It's called the spot rate. So you need a fill up of your fuel oil tank. You don't have a contract, and you call a provider and you need to get a fill up, and you need to get a fill up now because you're running out. You got to pay what the going rate is at that time. And it could be lower or it could be higher, and you may not have any control over it. So you want to investigate those options that you have. And then if the prices are fair at this particular point in time, maybe it's a good time now to sign up for your contract for the upcoming winter. And that way you'll be guaranteed. Now, of course, it's a fixed rate. So if for some reason the utility rates go down in the winter period of time, you're locked in at that higher rate, but at least you're guaranteed that rate. Now you know what it's going to be. You can budget for it now and take care of it now. If you want to take that gamble and expect that rates will go down during the winter, you do run the risk that the prices could go up significantly. They could go down significantly too, but they could go up. And that if you need oil or propane, you're going to have to get it. So do that now. Be a good consumer. Check and see what options you have available. Check multiple providers of that energy, because again, it does fluctuate and fluctuates significantly per gallon. Solar and wind leasing, I just want to mention it quickly. Renewable energy is the big thing now that's going on, that there are companies out there that want to lease land in order to put in wind turbines. Of course, they only want to do it where it's windy, usually up on hills. But I'm seeing, I think if you drive through around your area, especially more rural areas, you're seeing more and more photovoltaic fields. There are farms out there now where you're seeing the equipment that's being installed to gather energy from the sun. And I see on sides of hills, just the whole area is covered with those. And that's becoming more and more in vogue. It's kind of harkens back to the early 2000s when we had all kinds of people leasing their lands for gas drilling, which isn't happening in New York. So we're seeing more and more roofs having solar units put on them, having solar units put in big fields. and there are people going out attempting to lease so that they can put those up. The only thing I can encourage you to do is, if you are not aware of how that works and what the going rate is, you should do some investigation. Before you tie up your land, you really should speak to an attorney who does real estate to make a determination whether it's in your best interest to lease your property out. Maybe it's a great thing for you, generates income for you, and you have to make a wise decision on whether or not that's an appropriate thing for you to do with your land. I'm going to throw it out back to Sandy, see if there's any questions that are out there. If anybody has any questions related to any consumer-related issue, including utilities, we can't tell you what to sign up for. That's something that you have to make the decision on what works best for you. But if you have a problem or an issue related to this area or any other consumer-related topic, please feel free to contact our office. We're very easily accessible online. You can file a consumer complaint online. If you file it in Ithaca, it will automatically get funneled through our internet system and end up in Binghamton, the Binghamton regional office, and we'll handle that particular complaint. But Sandy, if we have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat. Thanks, Mike, for sharing lots of useful information as always. And thanks to those who joined us today for this presentation. Mr. Danaher will be back with us on Thursday, July 8th at 11 a.m. with an update on consumer frauds and scams. You can get the Zoom link on our website at ccetompkins.org/events. Thanks again, Mike.